94%. Just take a deep breath and let that number sink in for a second. 94%. In one massive maltreatment sample, around 94% of offenders were already known to the child. Look, stranger abduction is statistically rare, extremely rare. The real distortion feeding that knot in your stomach right now, it isn't the actual world outside your front door. It's the 24/7 news cycle in your pocket.
So, welcome to This Explainer. If you're a parent with a kid somewhere between, say, 4 and 12 years old, you are exactly who I want to talk to today. We are going to tackle what is easily one of the most paralyzing fears we face as parents, the fear of child abduction. But we aren't going to do it by hiding, and we definitely aren't doing it by obsessing over scary news stories. Instead, we're going to look at the hard data, completely debunk the myths, and build a framework of unshakable confidence for both you and your child.
Section 1. The real risk of abduction, separating fact from viral panic. As modern parents, we kind of live in a split reality, don't we? On one hand, the news cycle and viral social media posts massively inflate our perceived risk. They literally broadcast every worst-case scenario directly to our phones 24/7. But then on the other hand, we have the real world. Pediatric experts at the American Academy of Pediatrics confirm that child abductions by a stranger off the street are exceedingly rare. When kids actually do go missing, it usually involves wandering off, and this is especially true for neurodivergent children, like those with autism, or it involves someone the child already knows, like a relative who doesn't have custody.
Section 2. Rethinking stranger danger and why our old methods fail.
Here's the thing. Stranger danger is a messaging tactic that is both factually inaccurate and honestly developmentally weak. Young children simply cannot reliably define what a stranger even is. To a 4 to 12-year-old, a stranger is basically a cartoon villain, someone who just looks mean. The AAP actually warns us about this. They point out that a child might easily trust a complete stranger who smiles and asks for help finding a quote-unquote lost puppy, while at the very same time they might be terrified of a safe, helpful person who just happens to look a little unusual. Teaching them to fear this vague concept of a stranger leaves them incredibly vulnerable to friendly-seeming manipulation.
Moving to Section 3, the science of fear appeals, the psychology of scaring kids.
It's a total gut instinct for us as parents, right? We want to scare our kids just enough so that they listen and stay safe. It makes sense in our heads. But does terrifying a young child with scary villains or frightening statistics actually protect them in the real world?
Actually, no. A landmark meta-analysis by researchers Witt and Allen on fear appeals gives us a really clear answer here. If you use a high-fear strategy, but you don't give the child a highly effective, doable way to handle it, it results in what researchers call defensive avoidance. Basically, the child just completely tunes out the terrifying message. Or worse, they develop this free-floating, paralyzing anxiety. But if you pair a warning with high efficacy, meaning a specific, rehearsable, achievable action that the child feels entirely capable of doing, it leads to danger control. They take adaptive action. So the evidence is absolutely clear on this. Never ever use scary villains or frightening statistics aimed at a child unless you are immediately pairing it with a simple, doable safety skill.
Section 4. Skills over scares. Evidence-based prevention. So what actually works? Well, a comprehensive meta-analysis by researcher Jean Goebbels and her team looked at school-based prevention programs for child abuse to find out, and the data is definitive. The absolute most effective programs abandon fear tactics entirely. Instead, they focus heavily on building up a child's social-emotional skills and teaching body autonomy. Instead of strangers, they teach kids to recognize tricky people. You know, adults who ask kids to keep unsafe secrets or break safety rules. And they contrast that with safe helpers. And the biggest takeaway of all? These programs are most effective when children learn these self-protection skills through confident play, games, and even using puppets. It turns out play builds unshakable knowledge, whereas fear just builds walls.
Section 5. Teaching confidence safety. Practical application for parents.
Okay, so here is your new action plan, and this is directly supported by pediatric experts at the AAP. Step 1. Help your child identify safe helpers. When you're out at a store or park, actively point out security guards, store clerks with name tags, or other parents who are with their children. Step 2. Practice forcefully saying no. Literally give your kid the explicit permission and the vocabulary to be loud and assertive if an adult asks them to break a safety rule or go somewhere unfamiliar. Step 3. Role play. Remember that high-efficacy rule from earlier? This is exactly it. Role play moving away fast and loudly yelling for help. You want to rehearse these exact frameworks so the child feels entirely capable. You're turning an abstract risk into a highly doable, confident skill.
Section 6. Conquer with action. Defiantly calming your hypervigilance. Don't calm down. Conquer. I absolutely love that. Listen, it is completely natural that your parental protective instinct is firing on all cylinders right now. I am not asking you to ignore that instinct. I'm asking you to correct your methodology. We need to stop channeling that energy into anxiety and paralyzing fear and start channeling it into equipping your child. True safety comes from an equipped, confident child who knows exactly what to do, not a terrified child who just freezes up.
And to really help you conquer this, I highly recommend looking into tools like the Fear Me Not app. This app perfectly encapsulates all the evidence we've covered today. It's designed to help parents and kids practice these exact rehearsable safety frameworks together. It abandons scare tactic imagery entirely and focuses exclusively on building safety through confident I know what to do skills. It is just an excellent, highly actionable way to implement this kind of high-efficacy training right in your own living room. Now, before we wrap up, I do need to share a vital, defiantly calming clinical note. If you find that this fear of abduction is becoming truly intrusive, like if it's keeping you from leaving the house, or if your kid is experiencing severe, free-floating anxiety that impairs their daily life, please go see a medical or psychological professional. There is absolutely zero shame in seeking extra support to manage outsized anxiety so you can get back to living a confident, joyful life. So, that brings us to our final thought. Are you ready to trade the illusion of stranger danger for the absolute power of unshakable confidence? The statistics are on your side. The science of effective learning is on your side. It is time to drop the fear tactics, embrace actionable skills, and truly empower your kids to navigate the world safely and confidently. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I will see you next time.